Hello children, you are welcome to this segment of the program, The Classroom in Your Home. It is mathematics time, and that means it is time to have some fun. I am Uncle Agbaje. The revision week is over, and this week we'll be moving on to new things. I hope that you're ready. This week we'll be looking at numbering system in mathematics. We'll be looking at numbers and numeration. I'm sure you're familiar with this, but before we go into it, a revision of the homework that you were given before the revision week. We did estimation of length, and you were asked to take 2 steps as 1 meter and use that to estimate the length and breadth of your room. Now, I do not know how big your room is, but a standard room usually measures 12 feet in length and 12 feet at the breadth. So that's 12 by 12, and that's about 6 meters, which means that if you were to take 2 feet as 1 meter, then going from one end of your room to the other, you should have taken 12 footsteps. Well, I got a lot of responses from some of you, and for those of you that submitted your assignment, I say, well done you. Now, moving on to today's learning objectives. At the end of these lessons, what are we expected to be able to do? We should be able to group the digits of large numbers under place values. What does that mean? We should be able to recall numbering in thousands. And finally, we should be able to write numbers in millions and billions in words. And that should already give you the idea that today we'll be dealing a lot with numbers. We use numbers for counting quantities. Some quantities can be enumerated with the fingers. You count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10. Some, there are so many, you can't count them. What is the smallest number possible? What is the largest number possible? By the end of this lesson, you should have an idea of how to answer some of these questions. So, let's begin with this very large number. Can you read this number? You're looking confused. Is it in thousands? Is it a million? You know, I'll tell you about a game that my brother and I used to play when we were young. My brother would ask me, what is the number after million? And I would say billion. And he said, what's the number after billion? And I would say zillion. And then what's the number after zillion? And I would say uncountable. And then after that, I would say uncountable. And then go on and on like that. But all these are not real numbers. You will find out what the real numbers are in mathematics. So can you read this number? You are having trouble. Well, I want to assure you that if you pay 100% attention in this lesson, you will be able to pronounce this number easily by the end of the lesson. Now, if you could not read that number, I'm sure you will be able to read these numbers. I mean, these are just 3-digit numbers. 425, 123, 756, 248, 15, 38, 999, and so on and so forth. Now, if you can pronounce these numbers, I mean, if you can see this and say, this is 969, then good news you will be able to read any number, no matter how large, no matter how many digits it has. As long as you're able to read 3 digits, you will be able to read any number, my friend. So just pay attention and follow me. Now, we are familiar with the place values. You have the ones. I mean, this is a 1 box, so I will use this to represent ones. And you know that when 1 increases, you have tens. And this is how that 10 goes. Okay, so 10 is just 10 places of 1. So that is 1 in 10 places. So you have your units, which you called ones, and then you have your tens. Tens actually means 10 ones. So when you say 5 tens, that is 5 10 ones. So 10 ones is 10. 5 10 ones is 50. Okay, then you also have the 100, which is actually 10 in 10 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, as you can see. So 10 in 10 places, that gives you your 100. So 10 is 1 in 10 places, and 100 is 10 in 10 places. So keep that at the back of your mind as we go ahead. So that means that if we want to estimate what 543 actually means, how much is 543? That means you have 500 ones. You see, 100, 100, 100, 100 in 5 places. Then you have 440 ones or 410 ones. That is 500 4 tens, and that is this much. Then you have 3 ones or 3 units. So altogether, if you count all the little squares, that's what 543 means in numbering system. Okay, putting that at the back of our mind, we use this idea of hundreds, tens, and ones to read any number that we want to read. Okay, so for any number that is more than 3 digits, okay, so previously we're looking at 543, and that is just 3-digit numbers, and you can read it. Say 543, which is 500, 4 tens, and 3 units. So now, any number that is more than 3 digits, that's 4 digits, it has spilled away from the hundreds that we know. So what we do is that the first 3 digits from the right, you will use it to represent the ones, just like I did in the previous slide. The first 3 digits from the right represent the ones. Any other thing after that is already more than ones. It's already going to be counted in thousands. So we'll take that again. You count in ones, but when you no longer have 3 digits, you don't count in ones anymore. You count in thousands, as you will see in this example. So, for example, read this number. The number is made up of 4 digits: 5, 6, 4, and 9. So how do you call this number? So remember that I said that the first 3 digits from the right represent the ones. So what you do is that you separate. So we'll separate the first 3 digits from the right to represent the ones count. So the next digit represents what we call the thousands count. So here it is. So this one here represents the thousands count. So these ones for the ones count, and these ones for the thousands count. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to separate them, because usually if you want to read numbers, you cannot lump them together. It will not be so easy for you to read. So separate the 3 digits and use it to count the ones, as I will do now. So you can see that I have moved the 649 to the right a little bit to show that it is ones. Then, to guide me on how to pronounce these numbers, I put ones on top of the 3 digits to show that, okay, these 3 digits represent ones, and this other one has fallen into the house of thousands, as I call it, the house of thousands. You have the house of ones, and you have the house of thousands. So the house of ones will have 3 rooms. The house of thousands also has 3 rooms. But now only one of the rooms is occupied. Okay, so how do we call this number? Very easy to call. We just read it from the right. Under the house of thousand, we have 5. So we say this is 5,000. You don't say 5,000s. Note, you do not say 5,000s. You do not put S, you just say 5,000. 5,000. Then you read 5,000 and you read 649. You don't need to say 649 once. Just say 649. So it goes 5,649. And that is it. I'm sure you could read this in the first place. It's just going to provide a guideline on what we're going to be working with in the subsequent examples, as you will say. Okay, so moving on. That was easy. Let's look at another one. Now this one has about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 digits. You have 300,421. How do we read this number? Well, the first thing to do is to first separate the ones for the ones. Separate the digits for the ones count. That's 3 digits from the right. So you have this one, and this one. So you move them to the side, as you'll see. So you move them to the right. And when you separate digits, some people will use the comma, but comma is no longer in use. We now separate digits, okay? So when you separate the digits, make sure you don't leave too much space so that you don't confuse yourself or your teacher who is trying to mark or grade your work. So just leave a little space after the first 3 digits, then move on to the next 3. So in this case, you have separated them. So the next thing to do now is to build a house. So the first 3 digits will represent ones. That's the house of ones. The next 3 digits will go under the house of thousands. And as you can see, the 3 rooms under the house of thousands are now occupied. But to pronounce this is very easy. Like I said, if you can pronounce 3-digit numbers, you'll be able to read any number. So this is what? Just pronounce the 3 digits. This is 300, and this is 421. 300, 421. But you must remember that this 300 is not ordinary 300. It's 300 under the house of thousand. That's why you read it as 300,421. That's it. So you read 300,421, as you can see, 300,421. That's to tell you that under the house of 1,000, you have 300. And under the ones count, you have 421. That was easy enough. Let's take a look at another one. After counting in thousands, now the thousands count, you have three rooms under the house of ones, 3 rooms under the house of thousands. That's for 6 digits. So thousands will accommodate up to 6 digits. But what if you have 7 digits? You cannot squeeze 2 people in one room here. Obviously, there will not be enough space. So you need to build another house. And that means you're moving away from thousands. After the thousands, you go to, of course, you already know, we'll go to millions. And then we'll build houses. And then the house will always have 3 rooms, as you will see. So let's look at this one. This one says 126520003. I mean, somebody is looking and say, this number is so huge. How do I pronounce it? Don't be scared, my friend. We'll follow the same pattern, and that is separate 3 for the ones, separate 3 for the thousands, separate 3, or whatever you have left, just put them in rooms of 3, 3 each. And let's go. So we'll separate it like this. So 003, that's the first 3 digits from the right. I put a little space, 652, I put a little space, and I have just 2 digits left, and I build houses. So what house do I put here? Is it 1,000 or million or ones? Of course, to the right, I must begin with ones, and then the next one will be thousands, and then followed by millions. So this is also very easy to read as a number. So we write 12, 652, 3. It's as simple as that. 12, 652, 3. So you can see, if you're able to read 3-digit numbers, you will have no problem, except that you must be very careful. This is not ordinary 12. This is 12 million. This is not ordinary 652. It is 652,000. And then you have 3. And I've told you, don't bother writing the ones at the end of that. So how do you write this in words? You say 12 million, and this is it here. 12 million, then you put a comma, that's the end of that house. 652, then 1,000. So you write 600, and you don't write 6 in figure, you write it in words. 652,000, you're done with that house. Then you have and 3, because you're left with just 3 under the ones place. So let's take it again. 12,652,000. Don't say 652,003. No, you have to put and 3. 652,003. So you don't introduce your and until you get to the last one. So you have 12,652,000. This other and that you see here is just the and connecting 652. Then finally you end it with and 3. So the procedure is really very simple. The first thing you do is that you separate your digits into groups of 3. Then you build houses, ones, not tens. After ones, thousands. After thousands, then millions. So I'll give you some to do. Here are some for you to do. Now you must note that after millions, if there is any extra digit, that will go to billions. If you have any extra digit after millions, don't squeeze them under the millions and say, Uncle, why you stop that millions? No, 3 digits for one place value. So if you have extra digits, build another house. If you have extra digits, build another house and keep naming the house. All you need to do is to know the names of each of the houses as we progress. So you start with ones, you start with thousands, you start with millions, and after millions you have billions. I'll give you 1 minute, 30 seconds to do this, and I'll be right back to show you the correct answers. You have to write this in words. Begin. Alrighty then, eyes on me. I believe that you have written this out in words. Let's now see how it is done. The first thing we do, of course, is to break the digits into groups of 3, starting from the right. And this is earlier, I'm going to do that. You see, space this out, space this out, I've spaced this out. What I'm going to do now is to put houses on top of each of them from the right. You have ones, so these ones will take ones, ones, and ones. And this one will take the place value after ones, which is 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. Now that's it. This one will take a million, and then this is million. And after million, this one still has an extra digit that will fall under billion. So let's build these houses. As you can see, this one falls under billion. This one also falls under million. This is just 1,000. So it's going to be very easy to pronounce this. 250, then you have 32. But you don't say 250 and 32. This is not ordinary 250, it is under 1,000. That is 250,000 and 32. As you will say, 250,000 and then 32. So this one goes the same way. 15. And then there is 0 here. You don't say 0. You don't need the 0. It's empty. So you have 284. So this is 15 million. You don't say 0,000 because there's nothing like 0,000. I mean, no 1,000. It's no 1,000. It's just a 15 million 284, as you will see. So this is 15 million. Leave the 1,000 since there is nothing under 1,000. No significant number there. You have 284. Did you get that right? Okay, some of you wrote 0,000. No problem. I'll pardon you for that for today. But subsequently, know that when you have all zeros under a place value, you don't need to write it. Just leave it blank. All right. And this one is very easy to pronounce, actually. Never mind that the number is very big. Once you do the right thing, you split them, you have 9,152,035,109. Let's say 9,152,035,109. Now, I believe that you got that right. If you did not, go back and check your work again. But if you did, then I say, good job, you. Now back to that number that we started with. Do you now have an idea of how you're going to pronounce this number? Can you do it? Of course you can. Just follow the same procedure. I'll give you 1 minute for this, and I will be right back to show you the correct writing. Alrighty then. Of course, what you're going to do is that you're going to start by separating the digits, and then you have 3. If you put ones, then you have thousands, then you have millions, and then you have billions. And so this, of course, my friend, will be 165 billion 324 million 324 million 528,000. So you have 528,000. Then you have 9 and 9. Now I'm sure that you got that right. Good job, you, my friend. It's time for some homework. So copy this and write them in words during your leisure, and I'll be on hand next week to show you the correction. We have come to the end of the math lesson. I will now hand you over to Uncle Popo for the general studies lesson. Till I come your way in the next class, remain wonderful mathematicians.